Have you ever thought you were pretty well informed about something until someone asked you a fairly simple question that made you wonder if you'd actually understood anything in the first place? Well, this just happened to me. After spending months making my iron farm efficiency video, I thought I had every topic covered. Then one viewer came into my Discord with a simple question that changed everything. Okay, not everything, but they pointed out a key detail I missed that completely changed my perspective on iron farm efficiency. For me, it raised a question as to why the Minecraft community in general does not even seem to consider an alternative way of increasing efficiency that can be easily implemented into almost any iron farm. It was that one viewer with a fairly simple question that for me really sparked a whole paradigm shift. And so I wanted to make this video as a little bit of an ode to those of you who really thought about what was presented in the efficiency video, challenged it, and then tried to push the ideas to their maximum. And then I thought we could also use this video to talk about some of the topics that a lot of people commented about, which warranted a little bit of time. For me though, the viewer question is the most interesting part of this video, as I believe it changes the discussion about iron farm efficiency. It has the potential to shift the way we think about boosting efficiency for a large portion of iron farms. Maybe the best place to start this video is with the daylight sensor. During the efficiency video, I posed the question of how to modify the daylight sensor to work in all weather conditions, and you all came out in mass with solutions, which was amazing to see. So perhaps the most popular solution was, well, just build the farm in the desert because it doesn't rain there. And well, yeah, I didn't think of that. You guys are right, that would work. But there's an issue. It's not exactly a perfect fit. It's not wrong, but it's maybe not optimal for a public design. To demonstrate why, here is a world map of my single player series. See the desert? Well, if you missed it, here it is. That's about 5,300 blocks as the crow flies from spawn where my base is. Sure, I can use a nether tunnel or something like that, but what if I already have an industrial district set up and want my iron farm there? So you see what I mean? When designing a farm, these solutions are great if they fit for you. But when making a public design, I believe it's important to try to make the farm fit as many people and situations as possible. So that said, what solutions fit well then? In general, the solutions that used a separate villager to indicate when the villagers can sleep seem to be the best fit. Using either an observer or a pressure plate to detect when they are sleeping to allow the scared villagers a short time to sleep seems to be a good solution. Even so, I don't love it. That's because it uses another villager and in its own location, so it's a bit of a pain to build. It's not the end of the world, but is there a better solution that doesn't use a villager? Well, yes, but we actually just scrapped the daylight cycle altogether. This one didn't come from a comment, but was implemented into a design that was posted on YouTube by one of the creators who is part of my Discord community, MD. He created a 3-dimension iron farm design, which is very clever. The part I want to mention is his use of tripwire to time the sleeping mechanism. The golem falls off the platform and activates the tripwire, which closes the trapdoor and allows the villagers to sleep. This is a very nice solution. If you want to see all the details, check out his video. It's a really cool design and there's a link in the description. With this application, we no longer have to worry about clocks, which is nice, especially in small-scale farms. This solution works well for a 1-dimension farm like a water push or a walk farm, but also can be applied to a portal farm. You just add tripwires across the spawning platform itself and it will work with the same principle. But when we use portals, it does complicate the solution a little bit because we have to keep the nether link loaded with the 10-second offset to prevent lag, as discussed in the iron farm efficiency video. But it's still doable, and perhaps even preferred, because it allows us to narrow the scare time down to a minimum since we know exactly when the spawn attempt timer triggers. To illustrate, we We start scaring the villagers, and then at their next spawn attempt, they spawn a golem. We know that's 300 redstone ticks to the next spawn attempt in 1.18, so we can stop scaring for say 292 redstone ticks. And when that clock expires, the zombie scares again until the next spawn, which we can detect again with the tripwire, then stop scaring and repeat this loop. To maintain the portal linking, we just delay the second and third platform by 10 and 20 seconds respectively. That will result in a golem being sent through the portal every 10 seconds and maintaining that nether link. So why is minimizing scare time preferable? Well, as some of you in the comments pointed out, scaring villagers causes more lag than not scaring them. So it's best to scare them for the shortest amount of time possible. Without this exact timing, we need to scare for at least 5 seconds in order to make sure that we hit the spawn attempt timer. But with this system, we can reduce the scare time to very little because we know exactly when the spawn happened. So at this point, I bet some of you are wondering why I keep bringing up portal offsets instead of just recommending a chunk loader. And yes, a chunk loader would eliminate the need for a portal offset. The reason I design with a portal offset is simple and similar to the same reason I don't recommend the daylight detector in the desert. It won't fit every player's situation. I don't recommend chunk loaders because many server admins do not like them and many players play on servers. You can rightfully argue that server admins won't like my farm anyways because it's not super duper lag friendly, especially the expanded versions. And that's fair. But my concern, and I believe the concern that most admins have with chunk loaders, is not that it uses more server resources, but that it causes those resources to be loaded 24/7. The portal farm will require a player to be loading the farm, so it will at least put pressure on the player to minimize their use of server resources to times that they really need them. And if your situation allows chunk loaders, just send an item back to the overworld every 10 seconds, and it will be a chunk loader. Or you can install it in spawn chunks, and problem solved. With that out of the way, we now come to what I believe is the meat of this video. This guy, Sealy, came into the Discord server and asked a bunch of questions he had after watching the Iron Farm efficiency video. One question in particular was very interesting. I believe the best way to present this is to just read it verbatim. So he said, "Why only 3 villagers? It seems to me that if you only need 3 villagers to be panicking to spawn a golem, having a 4th would eliminate the inefficiencies caused by one of 3 scanning at the exact tick that a golem from another set of villagers is in the portal but not yet teleported." My first reaction, honestly, was that he was wrong. That the dynamics between the villagers don't work that way. If one villager detects golem, they will tell the other villagers. But in doing my due diligence, I realized I don't actually know how this interaction works. So I did what I usually do when I don't know something like this. Test it out. Hopping into the game, it's easy to test. Just set up 3 villagers and a 4th spaced a little bit out, but still close enough to be considered in their cluster. Then place a golem in the detection range of the 4th villager, but not the other 3. We can see that when this happens, golems still spawn. So it's clear that there is no communication between the 4th villager and the other 3. So I did further testing and even implemented a 4th villager into the stackable farm design and realized that Sealy was absolutely right. Adding a 4th villager increases the efficiency of the farm by decreasing the probability of negative consequences, i.e. spawn location failures and golem detection timer resets. If we look at a 1 tick time to kill, the probability that 1 of 3 villagers will detect the golem is about 1.5% per cluster. If we add a 4th villager, then it changes a bit. The probability that 1 in 4 detects the golem is a bit higher at about 2%. But this is okay because it will not prevent spawning. The number we are worried about is that the first one detects the golem, then a second in the same cluster detects the same golem. So we just take the probability that 1 of 4 detects the golem and multiply it by the probability that 1 of the remaining 3 detects the golem, and that gives us the probability that 2 of the 4 both detect the golem that lives for 1 tick. That gives us a 0.03% chance of the pocket not spawning a golem, or a single pocket efficiency of 99.97%. Even if the golem is detectable for 2 ticks, which is what is happening in the compact portal farm design, the efficiency is 99.88%, so really good. But why did I originally dismiss this question? It's a really great question. Honestly, I fell victim to something that happens very often in all technical fields. I just assumed it didn't work because, well, I've never seen a 4-villager iron farm before, and thus, I assumed that there was a good reason why it's not commonplace, beyond the lag concern with the villagers. Basically, I was guilty of thinking that the answer is, well, because that's the way it's always been done, which is just lazy and a really bad answer. I am 100% certain that many better technical Minecraft players than myself have known about this for a long time. What kind of baffles me is that designs with more than 3 villagers have not seemed to have much exposure at all, despite some obvious potential. Lag is a concern for sure, but not for everyone, and not for every design, especially for smaller scale farms that the majority of the player base uses. So the point is, question, challenge, push, prod, and don't take anything as fact. I'm certainly not claiming to be an expert on redstone or mechanics and want people to challenge so that we can learn and grow together. But now that we have accepted that 4th villager will decrease the probability of spawn failures, there is a possibility of making a new style of iron farms that have high efficiencies. Here's an example. 3 villagers with a 6-block spawn platform. Spawn chance is about 38%. But now we have 24 villagers with a 6-block spawn platform. Spawn chance is now 99.7%. Add a portal and 2 more blocks, and I think we now have the world's smallest maximum rate iron farm with a 100% efficiency. The problem is, it will only work until the villagers need to sleep. Then it's broken. But it gives the possibility of a different way to think about maximizing iron farm efficiency. Here's an idea inspired both by MD's earlier shown design and Seely's question. This design has 10 villagers with a small spawn platform that has a total of 24 spawnable blocks. The golem is pushed to its death, so the time to kill is quite small. So here we are taking advantage of the high number of villagers to minimize the spawn failures. The time to death is assumed to be about 2 seconds maximum. We have 10 villagers. Every time a villager scan detects the golem, it is then quote-unquote disqualified from the next spawn attempt. So we can calculate approximately how many villagers, on average, are able to attempt the spawn on the platform. With 10 villagers, the expected value is about 8 villagers on average. Using those 8 villagers, we get about a 100% spawn success rate on 24 blocks. This is a bit of a flawed calculation with just probabilities, because there's no such thing as a decimal number of villagers, and if you get under 3 villagers, the probability of spawning is 0. So what I did instead was created a Python program in order to simulate the dynamics, and tested it for 100,000 simulations per cluster size for a total of 2 million iterations. Here are the results. We see that at 4 villagers and below, the efficiency is quite low, but it grows rapidly with each villager, and flatlines near 100% around 9 or 10 villagers. So 10 seems to be a pretty good number. No fancy clocks, no portals, we use the tripwire for sleep like discussed earlier. To prevent spawning on the blocks not next to the drop, we use transparent blocks. This is a true max rate farm design. We can even improve it to minimize lag with a little bit of redstone to minimize the scare time, like explained earlier. I think this is a pretty interesting design, but to be clear, do I think it is a great design that I recommend to everyone? Probably not. It's just more interesting because of the different mechanism of increasing efficiency. That said, the implications are quite interesting. The biggest reason not to implement a 4th villager seems to be lag, which is understandable, especially in large-scale designs. But what about, say, this design? It was shown in the iron farm efficiency video and has an efficiency of 91% with 3 villagers. But when we add a 4th villager, it increases to 95%. Okay, so it's only 4%, so not exactly mind-blowing. But for me, the real question is, why not? It's not that much harder to build, and at this scale, and even with say a 4-pod version of this farm, the lag isn't going to make a huge impact. So the downside seems quite small for a solid increase in iron. In the end, there's always a give and take, and each situation has its own best solution. That is why we strive to understand the dynamics, so we can apply what is best for us. Either way, huge shout out to Sealy and to MD. It's really exciting to see how members of this new and small community are really challenging and questioning the norm. And hopefully it is something that we can continue and all grow from. But that's going to be it for this video. So thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.